Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Today we have a gewaldige daf going back to Eli Stefansky. A lot of pictures of broken bones and all sorts of stuff. Very geschmack. Mishmeretzim. If a bone broke in the animal, then it's a treifa. What's the lashon here? Depends if there's the roiv meat, which that's today's sugi. We're going to see what a roiv meat is. Omarav, lemalo min arkuva, above. We're holding like smack in the middle of Vayin Vav and Beis. Lemalo min arkuva by the two dots. But like above the knee, by the bend. Lemalo min arkuva by the joint. Im roiv abasar kayim ze v'ze mutar. If there's a majority of flesh, then you're allowed to eat even the foot that's broken. Certainly you're allowed to eat the animal. Well, not certainly, it's not a treifa, so you're allowed to eat the animal, but even the leg. Vim lav, ze v'ze asar. If you don't have roiv basar, which we're going to describe what it is, you're not allowed to even eat the animal. The whole animal's treif, you're not allowed to eat it. Lamatim and arkuva, what if it's below the joint? Im roiv abasar kayam ze v'ze motor. Same thing, if you have the roiv basar below the joint, they're both the animal and the foot are motor. Im lav, if you don't have roiv basar, here's a massive chiddush. Aver asar. The aver itself is like aver medaldal, it's like a dingling, it's not part of the animal. Memela, you're not allowed to eat it. Ubeheva mutaris, it doesn't cause a treifa, so you're allowed to eat the mother, but not the mother. We're not talking about a mother, you're not allowed to eat the cow, but you're allowed to eat the cow, but you're not allowed to eat the leg. Shmuel Omar, bein lamala, bein lamata, so we have machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel says, doesn't matter. Lamala, lamata, im roiva basakayim zevazem mutar, im lav, aver asur, ubehema mutaris. In both, it's considered aver medaldo. Maskul Rav Nachman Shmuel, yoimru, aver mimena mutal ba'ashbo mutaris. How could you say that we make a distinction between the leg and the rest of the animal? They'll say, oh, part of the animal is in the garbage, and you're allowed to eat the animal. What's the difference between Rav and Shmuel? There's only in one case there's a difference. But Rav also says the same thing in one case, that what? That you're allowed to eat the rest of the animal, but not the aver. So also according to Rav, they'll say the same thing. So according to Rav, above the joint, it's a treifa, and according to Shmuel, above the joint, it's not. So Maskul, yoimru, he said, but what's the difference between Rav and Shmuel? Both of them have a case where the animal's mutter and the aver is asur. So people can say, oh, the aver's in the garbage, you're allowed to eat the rest of the animal. She says, no. L'Rav Nami, yoimru, aver mena mutar ba'ashbo mutaris. Same exact thing as Shmuel. Shmuel has in two cases, Rav has in one. When it's above the joint, if you chop it off completely, it'll cause death to the animal. So how is it possible that if that aver is in the garbage, the animal's mutter? They said in Eretz Yisrael, the halacha is like Rav, that what? Above the joint, the animal becomes a treifa. Then it's very confusing. The first they said, according to Rav, above the joint is treif. Hadashalchu, go say the Shmuel. Then say, no, it's not treif. Hadashalchu, go say the Rav, it is treif. Not only that, ve'ever atzmoi mitama b'maso. So this is interesting. If you remember, you don't see it a lot in Shas, that shchita oisanipol, this idea of shchita oisanipol, miso oisanipol, what does that mean? It's possible, it's machloikis in shchita, if you shech the animal, the moment you shecht it, you go back a moment and you say, retroactive, this limb, the dangling limb, was chopped off completely. Shchita, what is shchita oisanipol? You shecht, you have a dangler. Dangler is considered, it's gone before. Gone before makes it a what? Every menachai. Every menachai is tamei. So that's what he's saying. Then there's just all the passing at the end like Rav, that above if it's broken above the joint, treif, not only that, it's just broken. We consider nipple, we consider it fell off. What's Rav Chisda? Meisav, it says Meisav by me also. What's Rav Chisda? Loi imtiara. We had a very similar lashon in our Mishnah, so we're very familiar with this debate over here. It's between Chacham and Meir whether or not you could prove something from a treifa to this Abraham Medaldal. So he says like this. This is a brisa. This is not the Mishnah. Loi imtiara shchitas treifa isa. It says over here that the shchita is mitar. Shchita works, and that's a problem with what we just said. Shchita works for treifa, isavis, Abraham, a duldulba, and even a dangling limb. The shchita works to get rid of the tumah. Why? Davar shegufa. It's the actual body of this animal. To tire so uba or davar sheina gufa. How could it go from a mother, a shchita in the mother, to the fetus? But akopanim, you see this idea that the shchita does work. Why are you telling me that the shchita doesn't work? And it's as if the dangler is Abraham and Achai. Right? That's what we just said, that it's a shchita, it's a nipple, it fell, it's Abraham and Achai. Omalei Rabbo, Hadur Apircha Lamalach. Why do you have to come all the way to a brisa? Rabba, Rava. Oisiv mimas nisan. Why don't you ask a question from a Mishnah? So the explanation is, Rashi explains, a Mishnah, everybody knows a Mishnah about peh. Brises, I need somebody, a professional, to teach us brises, not a Mishnah. So he's telling him, why do you need a brise? It goes straight to the Mishnah where everybody knows. What does it say in the Mishnah? If you shecht an animal, then the blood of the animal gives it a hechsher, it prepares it to receive tumah divrei meir. Rav Shimon Omer lo yuchshuru. Akopanim, there's no machloikis if it's Avraham and Achai or not. Of course it's not Avraham and Achai. It's a question whether or not it accepts tumah right now. But it's not Avraham and Achai. No, over there you could say it's not a right from that Mishnah because maybe it's talking about the dangling piece of flesh. Dangling piece of flesh is different than a dangling aver because the flesh itself, maybe it's not Avraham and Achai. Kisolak Reb Zera, when Reb Zera came to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkechei, he bumped into Rav Yirmiyah the Yosef Ka'amar Lo Shmaita. He heard Rav Yirmiyah saying over from Rav, that if you break the bone above the joint, it's a treifa. That's Shitas Rav. Amalei, Reb Zera says, Yishar, it's gevaldik what you're saying. V'chein tirgama Aryach beBavel. Yimam is saying beautiful. Also, Aryach said this in Bavel where I just came from. Aryach, Manu, who's this Aryach? Shmuel. Asking more of a miflik polik. We just said that according to Rav, above the joint is a treifa, above the joint, according to Shmuel, is not a treifa. How are you telling me that Shmuel agrees to Rav? Says the Gemara, the Beis Shmuel gabe the Rav. No, it turns out that Shmuel actually agreed to Rav at the end, and above the joint, the broken bone above the joint, is a treifa. Tanur Rabbanan. Here we go. Back to Elu treifas. Nishbar etzem yatzel lachutz. If the bone broke, compound fracture, nishbar etzem yatzel lachutz. Im or ubasar choifenes ruboy. If the skin and, you see, ubasar, it's important to notice this. If the skin and the flesh cover choifenes ruboy, cover the majority of the bone, mutter. Im lav, asur. If it doesn't have the majority of the skin and the flesh, then it becomes a treifa. V'kama rubai. What does it mean? Chazarah roiv avyoy. Oh, I'm going to pull out my Play-Doh. Here's the bone. It fractured like this, broke. So now, this is the meat, right? It's the red meat. There's machlokes whether there's a roiv around it, like this, around. Maybe it's open over here, but most of the majority is covered by meat. Or another pshat is like this, on top. It covers, the actual fracture is covered by meat. Maybe it has to do with, for us to understand, maybe it has to do with infection and things like that. I think that's the big concern today when there's a car accident, a lot of times, there's a exposed fracture. What do you guys call it? Open fracture, very dangerous, it could be deadly. This is the avioi, the circumference, the thickness of the bone. So it covers most of the thickness. It's exposed, but most of it is covered. Because of the Rav Yochanan, And some say Roy v'Kefai. So if you didn't peek in the Gemara and I were to ask you, all the Manda Amrim, all the Tanaim and Amoraim and Shas, who's the one? No. Oh yeah? Givaldik, yeah, you're right. Did I say that last night also? I hope not. Roy v'Aviyai is the, right, a Kefai means to go around, 100%, yeah, bad. I said it right last night? Just now I messed up? Okay. Aviyai is the circle, the round part. So Aviyai, and a Kefai means, let's just get it right, a Kefai means Lakif, to go all the way around the circumference. So Roy v'Kefai means to go all the way around, is a little bit exposed. Good, you're right, thank you. Omar Papa Hilkach, therefore being in Roy v'Aviyai, you need the top to be covered. Ubin and Roiv Kefa, you also need Roiv of the circumference. Omar Ula, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Or Hareu Kibasar. If I don't have the flesh, I just have skin. Let's call this skin. Oh, this is mamish nice skin from Shlomi Klein. Skin also, it does the job. If I have Roiv surrounded, then it's okay. Skin is like flesh. Who says that it's like basar? Maybe together, in conjunction with flesh, it's okay. 50% flesh, 50% skin. Why do you say that it could do the entire job of both? Dahar u basar ktani. Before I point it out, it says, Im oir u basar chayvenis rubai. It doesn't say either or, it says both of them. So maybe you need both. How do you know that skin by itself is enough to protect the bone? Amalei, anan oir, oi basar taninon. We have another word over there, the word oi, and oi means either or. The way you have it, you're right, it says both, but even skin alone is enough. 50% skin together with some basar. How do you know it's 50-50? Maybe it means there's 90% meat and 10% skin to do the roiv. L'chumra. You're right, I don't know. But I know one thing. I saw a story of Maisa Shahaya. And there's nothing better than seeing a gadol passing from a real story. I was there. There was a bird, let's call it a pigeon, with a broken leg, an exposed fracture. The oir mitzvah the basar have. He took the skin together with the meat, 50-50, and it worked. And he said, this is a kosher bird. So no, I have a great ma'isa to prove my you don't need 90% meat and 10% skin, even 50-50. Even 50% skin is also good. How do I know this? From the story of a bird I saw with my own eyes. So he tells him, listen, that's what Gemara is all about. It's to make distinctions between different things. You bring me a proof from a bird. The skin of a bird is very, very soft. So maybe 50% of skin is good enough to protect. But when we're talking about an animal that has much thicker skin, then skin by itself is not enough to protect the bone. Hanu gidin rakin the asl kamei the rabba. There were these sinews, these gidin, that they wanted to take the white sinews, the Achilles tendon, I don't know what, and apply it to say that this is enough to cover the bone, and that's the roiv skin. What's the problem, says Rabbah? I have two reasons to be matter sinews to cover the bone. Listen to this. You're allowed to eat just sinews and be yoy to the carbon Pesach, according to who? According to Rabbi Yochanan. So if it's like, it's edible, so it's like basar, what's the problem? It's even better than skin. Skin, you said, is okay, at least some of it. So why not sinews? Void. This is crazy. First of all, stop, think about it. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when we eat the carbon Pesach, and you're not allowed to leave even a speck of anything, have to go all the way down to the bone. So we're gonna have to eat all these interesting things. The kidneys, the brain, the sinews, everything. You have to start getting used to it. You have to start serving this on Shabbos. Void, listen to this. This is gonna throw you for a loop. The Torah doesn't want you to say that this animal is stray. If it has a broken bone, use the sinews and cover it. The Torah wants you to save money. How are you gonna lose a whole animal for that? Popular Rabbah, makes no sense what you said. Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Reb Shimon ben Lakish says you're not allowed to eat sinews on Pesach for Korban Pesach. Visur deraisa, we're talking about treif here. But the Amris, my lechashlu. And you're telling me about saving money, not saving money. How does saving money come into the picture over here when Rish Lakish holds that it's usher to eat sinews of the Korban Pesach? You're not yoitza. Ishtik. Rava, Rabba, didn't know what to answer. Says the Gemara by my Ishtik, I don't understand. Simple. In all of Shas, imagine, we had, just in the last 3 days, we had, 3-4 machlokes in Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish. Every daf in Shas, I'm exaggerating, but they're there everywhere. Hundreds of machlokes in Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish only won 3 times. So what is he so concerned? Rish Lakish holds you're not allowed to eat the sinews on Pesach. No, it's not one of the 3 times that he won the fight. We passing like Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, no, this happens to be one of the times, it's not even a fight. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rish Lakish, you're 100% right, you're good. You're not allowed to eat those sinews. So whoever said before the shir, or in the beginning of the shir, that you're not allowed to eat sinews as a Korban Pesach was right. At the end of the day, he was right, la halacha. Just, you should realize that at one point, Rabbi Yochanan thought it's mutter. Over here, Rabbi Yochanan actually agreed to Rish Lakish, don't bring me a ride from that Mishnah over there, talks about hard sinews, soft sinews. Don't bring me a ride over there. It's a das yachid. B'kitzer, you see that he had charata from this thing, and we hold like Rish Lakish. Now what? So Mela, since you can't eat sinews for Korban Pesach, so it's not something that is edible, and therefore you can't use it to cover the bone. So now we're going to start with a bunch of pictures here. Check this out. Here's the picture. What do you see? What do you see in this picture? Anybody? A piece of the bone fell to the floor. There's a little small piece of the bone that fell onto the ground. Also, so they came to Abaya. He wasn't sure what to do with this. He waited, I don't think he waited with the meat, because they didn't have refrigeration, probably sat there with the question for three Yom Tovim. The G'dolim come, you meet this gadol, that gadol. Go to Rava, the son of Rav Yosef bar Chama, the Charif Sakina, he's a sharp knife. They use that lashon today also, he's very sharp. He knows how to learn, go ask him. It says that the bone breaks and it's exposed. Mali nofal, mali isa. What difference does it make if a piece is there? In other words, the ikir is that the meat surrounds it, protects it, however it works exactly la halacha. But the point is that we have meat and skin that have a roiv, and that's the ikir. A piece missing, a piece not missing, that's not important. It's kosher. All malei ravina l'rava. Mislakit mao. Here we go. These are all based on the Sichas Chullin. The arrow's pointing to circular pieces of flesh. You see those little circles on the top of the broken bone? That's where the bone, this part, that's where the bone fractured. This is small pieces of flesh. Can we take the size of a dime and then the size of this, little small pieces, and put them all together and say, we have a roiv? Or maybe they have to be connected. Mislaket mao. Misroises mao. It's a very, very thin layer. If you look over here on the left side, a nice thick piece of flesh. On the right, it's smaller. Mismas mao. It's decaying. You see, decaying flesh. Is that? Could I use that as a roiv? What does it mean? Mismas is decaying. You You go to a doctor, he takes a scalpel and he starts scraping it off. If it's worthless meat, if it's the type of stuff that the doctor says we gotta cut it out, then that's considered decaying. Iboilu. Sometimes it's like, it's starting, he doesn't touch it. He's like, okay, let it heal. That's not mismasmas. Iboilu, nikav mao. What if there's a small little hole in the meat? Like right over here, you can see nikav. Does that make a difference? Niklaf mao. Let's see, niklaf. Here we go, niklaf. In other words, the meat is not touching the bone. It's popped up as it doesn't give the protection that we're looking for. Nizdak mao. No, not this one. Nizdak was over here. Okay, nizdak. There's a crack in the meat. Nital shlisha tachtoi mao. Oh, this is very geschmack. Where's that? The lower third of the meat is missing. You see, it's not touching the bone over here, and it's missing a nice chunk of meat. But on the other hand, it's completely covering the bone from outside exposure, let's say. Tashma, on this last question of nital shlish, or hareu kubasar. So he says like this, take a look at this picture. Why is this any worse than a piece of skin? Skin is thinner, skin is not even flesh. We had a whole thing. Could it be just 10% of the skin, maximum 50% skin ratio, 50% meat? Skin is not as good as meat. And over here we have a layer of meat that should act like skin. Why is that any worse? Says Gemara, no, not a good kasha. Dilma, the kana mashchadi day. Maybe we're talking about a place where, sorry, no. I skipped. Toshma domer or areu kabasa. Yeah. Dilma, the kana mashchadi day. Maybe when he said that the skin is like meat, we're talking about a part of the leg where there's no meat at all. Sometimes you're on top of you're by your knee, by your shin, whatever. There's no meat. In that situation, he said, skin is like meat, because that's what you have. Naturally, you have skin in that area. But in the area that you're supposed to have meat, mechatesa, skin is not like meat over there. Like an elbow. We're talking about the leg of the animal that broke above the bone. Okay.
At the actual joint.
At the actual joint. Omer Ravashi, Kavina Beirav Papa, Yiboilon. Another question. Nigdar kiminta bas mao. This is very interesting. If you have to take a good look at this picture. It's hard to see initially. You can see the white and black hide of this animal, like the fur, whatever you want to call it. You see there's a circle in the middle? So right over here there's a circle. In other words, there's a complete ring missing. I actually asked ChatGPT today, so I once heard that if somebody cuts a finger, like you take a knife and cut it all the way around, not on me, that the skin will die to the top, like something like that. In other words, a complete circle is very bad. It doesn't give room for the skin to regenerate. So over here also, it's a little bit of an issue. What happens? You have a broken bone, and you have roiv basar, but there's a circle completely surrounding it. Is that middle part, is that going to regenerate and connect to the rest? Or perhaps since it's a complete circle, it's cut off, so to speak, from the rest of maybe it won't, maybe it's not going to regrow. I don't know. And we solved the problem. Super interesting lashon here, because usually we go when we ask chachamim. Once in a while, when chachamim are not professionals in certain areas, we ask the doctors. But over here we're asking the chachamim and then the doctors. V'amru misartoi be'etzem umal arucha. You have such an issue. What you do is you take a bone here. You take this, only this, as a tool. And you scratch it out. You start scratching and you aggravate the bone. The bone is sleeping now. You aggravate it. You start scratching it, and then it starts healing. Then it comes back. But you cannot use a metal tool. You can only use a bony tool. Today we use metal tools. Then back then they probably didn't know about the problems. They noticed that people are dying using metal tools, and they didn't realize it wasn't sterile or whatever. Today we know. Omra Papa, V'hu dekona garment day. It's because you see that the bone took hold of like it grabbed onto the flesh is starting to grow. Once you see that, then you know it's not a treifa, you're good. You shecht an animal, and you find the sac, amniotic sac, where the baby, usually the fetus, grows in that sac. Nefesh hayofa toichlena. If you don't have an issue with it, you're not an istinus, then you can eat it. The Mishnah over here says nefesh hayofa toichlena. Most people don't eat it, but if you're into it, go ahead, eat it. But you should know, this is not, it can't receive tumah as a food. It's not an apple that if you touch it with a dead cherry, of course, after it's making mushal kabel tumah and everything, it's not mekabel tumah. If you thought about eating it, you decide I'm going to eat it, then it becomes food. You just created a food, a new item, beautiful item called a placenta. That if you didn't check the mother and this came out, it's not an nevela. So here we have a nice sugya. If part of the sac came out, asur b'achila. Why? Why can't you eat a sac that came out a little bit? We are concerned that in this sac that came out, you don't see it, but there was a head of an animal in there, and it just disintegrated. What you're looking at now, you see like all these funny colors, that used to be the head of a fetus, which disintegrated, which is also for you to eat. You have an animal that for its first birth had a miscarriage, and out comes a sac. You're permitted, it might be a zachar, and if it's a zachar, it is a bechar. I'm allowed to give it to the dogs. The Gemara is going to explain because it's a majority of these things are not going to be a zachar. Let's think about it for a second because it's cool. What are the chances that a zachar is born on every birth? 50%, let's say. But there's also a small percentage that's not a zachar, not in the keva, some sort of a nidma, a fish, something that looks like a bird, we said, right? So that you take that into account, now all of a sudden you have 49% that this is a zachar. And 49% zachar, now you're allowed to throw it to the dogs. But when it comes to a carbon, now the percentages are super high because even a nekeva has kedusha, a zachar and a nekeva, and the 1% that it's a nidma, that's nothing. You don't bury it on the road. So I thought is the shilya. I don't know, somebody was learning it, stones, I have to look into it. Mipnei darkei amayri. This is super important. This is mamish negeh to us also. What's darkei amayri? Some people, they believe in hiji biji, they go like this, they do this, flat this. Certain things could be very dangerous, la halacha, to use and go after. Darkei amayri is, it could be mamish, the Rishonim say, it could be shtusim v'havalim, but if you believe in it, for instance, the Vilna Gaon says you're not allowed to say bless you when somebody sneezes because it's darkei amayri. Yeah, so stuff like that have no shayach. But if you truly believe that it works, that becomes darkei amayri. Minani mili, the Torah Rabban. How do you know that if the shilya comes out a little bit, it's asur? Kol ba'behema teichelu. The rabbi says shilya. You're allowed to eat the placenta. Yachal afilu yatsa miktsasa. Well, maybe I think that it's mutter even when it comes out a little bit. Oh, the rabbis is a shilya. Mamish, it's an unbelievable day today. So it says you're allowed to eat the placenta. So maybe even a little bit that came out. No. So we have a miut. That miut tells us that a little bit you're not allowed to eat. Michdi asked the Gemara, why do you need a pasuk? And shilya believe lad. We're telling you that in that, the reason you're not allowed to eat it is because in the placenta there's a little bit of a fetus. So the fetus didn't have shechita. It came out before the mother was shechted. Lomali cross. So what would be the having you're allowed to eat something without shechita? Says the Gemara, you're right. Cross, machta ba'alma. Ein chanami. Says the Gemara, ve'ein matamo, boy ribis chunavcha. Or chamor shesholkoi ma'u. What if you take donkey skin and you boil it until it becomes soft? Ma'u for what? Lemai ilu tumas hachlin tanina. as we're going to see in a second, if for the nevela we said, that what? The skin and the placenta do not, we said before in our mission, but in the Brisa, they don't have a tuma of food. They're not considered food, so they don't accept food. Here it says mefurish that if you cook up even the skin of a donkey, it has the tumah of food. If you touch this hide of an avela, you don't become tummy. The hide of you touch the actual bone. Not in the hooves, not in the sinews, the horns. You take this stuff and you cook it up real good with spices and everything. So the Gemara we're talking about, we're not talking about nevela, we're talking about oichel. We're talking about food. So he says it is food. You can make it into food. But the skin of a donkey is so disgusting that I would have a it's not even food. Even a normal person would tell you that's not food. What do we do over here? This is a massive sugya. Not a massive sugya, but I don't know what to do. Wow. Okay, we'll stop over here. Boy Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.